Morning, everybody.
Hey, Coach, I know at the beginning of the season you installed a new offense. With all the moving parts that went through it, could you get a good evaluation of it, and think you're going to tweak it in out season?
Yeah, I mean, I think, over 82 games, despite all the changes, I think we got a pretty good look at it. I mean, I think there were definitely positive moments. I mean, when we found like consistent, lineups, that early January, and obviously when came back in mid-December, we started seeing even the kinks that we still had to work out. Knowing that the driving force of the offense was allowing, Dez, JJ in particular. I mean, you see his growth. Play with an empty paint was our biggest thing in third gear. Seeing even Derek Marcus, having to kind of lead, the offense, when Ja was out. So the pockets of the season made it hard to evaluate it. I don't know to what extent we'll make the tweaks. I think personnel definitely drives a lot of it. I mean, we definitely have a vision of how we want to play, playing, when we talk about Ja, Dez, and Jaren in particular, and seeing Jaren's growth, where we play into their strengths. In the open court, we've got to play fast. That's how we've played, the first 4 years. That's something we wanted to lean into coming into year 5. But we're definitely going to take a step back, try to process these 82 games, see the other guys' growths in this process as well, especially of late, seeing, what Vince, Gigi, even Jake, what they were doing, seeing BC finally back. That's going to, put a lot of stock into, where our system is at. So that's going to be the projects that we're going to work on as a coaching staff. The numbers are going to reveal some things, but I don't think that's necessarily a fair assessment of what the system can become, knowing that there were pockets of the season that revealed pretty good offense, efficient offense, but there's naturally going to be, is Jaren at the 4, Jaren at the 5, that'll dictate some things, when it comes to our system, and but I think it gives us a lot of optionality as well.
Taylor, you just talked about a little bit there about, it's Jaren at the 4, Jaren at the 5. When you reflect on the second half of that season and looking forward for you as a coach, what's, I guess, your prototypical ideal pairing from the power forward and center spot? What type of combination are you looking forward to having in those positions to kind of maximize what you want to do as a team and as a coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easy to point to the big. I mean, Zach and I have been talking all season long, especially when we made some moves, throughout the year, and really elevated to JJ specifically playing at the 5 position. We're trying to play in positionless, but you definitely need to complement, everyone's strengths out there and account for things that, maybe someone needs, from a big spot, maybe even a guard spot as well. So we're taking a lot of things into consideration, going into the summer, but seeing, JJ, his versatility, on the offensive side of the 5 is something that just really jumps off the page that we want to lean into more. But there's also some things that we got to account for on the defensive side. As I've said, his superpower of being the secondary defender, maybe, not as much as the primary defender. You never know what 82 games is going to need it, in a playoff series, what it's going to need, matchup to matchup. So kind of hard conversations. I think there's an element of size, an element of, are we going to be switching a little bit more? Obviously the prototypes that we've had prior to JJ at the 5 with, Jonas and Steven, we saw a lot of success there on the defensive side, so that factors into the equation. And the more that we can get shooting on the floor. I mean, obviously when you've got Ja, Dez, JJ specifically, those guys being kind of your primary, attack guys, from the guard, wing, and big position, having whether it's another big out there that can shoot and stretch the floor when those guys are creating the advantage is also factoring in. So I don't think there's one clear-cut ideal, big pairing to answer your question. I think there's a couple different ways we can go up, but that also kind of bleeds into what the perimeter looks like as well.
Taylor, you've been managing injury and recovery schedules almost since training camp last year. How much of a relief is it to finally put that sort of behind you? And how healthy do you anticipate this summer being for some of the key guys going in?
Yeah, I think anticipating it to be a very healthy summer. I think, the majority of the guys that are out, some of them are just a few weeks away. I think Ja's the one that's, maybe a couple months away. I think by, beginning of summer, June-ish or something, he's supposed to ramp up a little bit more into his basketball, work this summer, which is really exciting and really encouraging. So, fingers crossed. You never know what happens over the summer, but I think we're going to be able to have a good start to our summer with the majority of the roster from a health standpoint, and hopefully that bleeds into great work. And then come, start a training camp in October, we're fully healthy, which is obviously, something we've missed this year. But I think we're going to be in a good place health-wise with the entire roster.
Taylor, in the back. Obviously, you are very much about giving the credit to your players. That being said, it would have been really easy at multiple points this year for that locker room to check out on you, and they did not. I'm curious, do you allow yourself to give you a pat on the back for keeping these guys locked in and focused on the goal at hand despite the terrible circumstances and the hand you guys were dealt?
Never. It's not about me. It's about the entire group. I think the players were phenomenal. It was one of the first things I told them in my final team meeting, because this could have easily gone sideways. With all of the adversity, every day was a new challenge. I think everyone, players, coaching staff, medical staff, we just put our heads down and try to figure out how to, just kind of navigate day to day, phase to phase, throughout the season. We actively talked about a group, the reality that we were facing. And there's, two paths that you can take. You're going to keep pouring the work and keep competing and keep trying to strive for that standard that we, live out every single day, or you're going to go the other direction, which could probably, not be very good for anybody. So the testaments to the entire group.
Taylor, this is your first year since 2019-20 under 500, but it was completely different from any other year, right? Coaching over 30 players, meeting a guy in the morning, and then playing him that night in some situations. Do you feel like you've grown as a coach this year? And if so, how have you grown?
Yeah, I think adaptability. Obviously, everyone in the NBA strives for consistency, on a lot of different fronts, not just, the lineups that you roll out there. But, to me, it was adaptability. The way that I've always been wired dating back to, when I coached in the D League and when I first came to the NBA. If you're truly going to love, this profession of teaching and educating, you've got to read your audience. You got to know your audience. You got to know who you're working with every single day and understand what they need of you in that specific moment. So that's what I leaned into. I think that's what our staff leaned into. And luckily, I'm blessed to work with an amazing group of players that allows me to do that. I don't take that for granted being the head coach here. So definitely unique. We definitely had our circumstances, as you said. We had, guys coming in, fresh the first day and getting thrown in at night. I think, credit to our hustle staff as well and our hustle program. So many guys that were, playing with the hustle this year stepped up and filled some roles with us throughout the season. So having that connectivity, you never know what a season's going to present to you. So I think we leaned on a lot of different, people, throughout this process, but the one constant was trying to figure out how are we just going to address the needs of the team, today and go out and hopefully compete and give great effort. So that's something that hopefully still a driving force, every single year for us here.
Hi, I have two quick ones. One, Gigi Jackson Summer League, yes, no, maybe. And do you have any insight on Zaire Williams' future potential going forward?
Yeah, Gigi anticipated him playing in Summer League. I think it's going to be a great opportunity for him. He and I talked about it, a couple of days ago, just to continue expanding on his game. Obviously, he's showcased so much, this season. The kid's got so much potential, but when I see that potential realized, and it doesn't start, it's not just saying it, it's doing it. I think he's fired up. We've obviously had great examples of guys that have made the most of Summer League, but we're going to make that specific to him. What are the things he's got to work on, challenge him offensively, defensively? The more that he can play, he loves to play. I think it's going to be a great opportunity for him. And, Z and I, talked about it. He's fired up. He came into the season, trying to have a most improved player mentality. Obviously, injuries got in the way. He's frustrated about it, but he's highly motivated to continue to work on his body. I think he's got so much into his game, so many intangibles. He's got a competitive fire that can be unlocked with being a great player on both ends of the floor for us. He can read the game, continue to work on his shots, something that we're going to challenge him with, and then just trying to be a guy that can be a versatile defender when he's locked in and he's healthy and he's out there. He's made headway on that side of the floor and an impact for us defensively. So we're really excited about the growth he can show this summer. Yep.
Taylor, given the adversity all year, were there times that you sat back and almost in the back of your mind said to opponents, have a good time this year, next year's going to be different?
Not really. Obviously I'm going to be, sitting at home watching a couple more months here of the playoffs, and it's going to, get my blood boiling. It's going to be getting my mind thinking about a lot of different things, where the league's at, how we got to continue to respond to how good the league is getting, and especially the West. But we know what we're capable of doing. That's our biggest thing. We just got to, have that humility and understand that this was a difficult situation. It's not good enough, and it's not going to be our new norm. And, how we're going to have that chip on our shoulder, how we're going to have that hunter's mentality again, but we're actually going to put the work in and not just say it, we're actually going to do it. But no one needs to be put on notice. We just got to be put on notice that we got to get better, and that's going to be our driving force to have our success next season. Great. Thanks, everyone. Look forward to y'all seeing soon. Okay.